Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. Created by speakers, for speakers. It's your fast track to sharper skills, bigger impact, and a smarter speaking business. Subscribe and download using the link below. And step into the spotlight.
Hello and welcome to Speakernomics, the National Speakers Association podcast designed to help speakers elevate excellence, share expertise, and challenge one another to improve. I am Bonney, CSP, and I am lucky enough to be one of the rotating hosts of Speakernomics podcast this year. And I am thrilled to welcome this week's guest, CSP, CPAE, Terri Sjodin, to the show. Terry's principal and founder of Sjodin Communications. Hi, Terri. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
You're welcome. I'm going to embarrass you with a few other details so the people realize who we're talking to today. Terri has written multiple books, including a New York Times bestseller, which I think is on a lot of our lists. And she's celebrated for her expertise in helping professionals enhance their persuasive presentation skills. So if you're one of those speakers who are like, I love speaking, but I don't want to sell it, now this is your episode. She has been featured on the Today Show, Bloomberg, CNN, CNBC, to name a few. She launched her company over 30 years ago, sorry, Terri, from a spare bedroom in her house. So we've all been in that place. So since then, she's built an impressive client list, Fortune 500 companies, small businesses, national sales team, industry associations, and even members of Congress. But today, she's going to talk to us, her fellow speakers, about sales and brand development, and specifically playing the long game. How can we continue to have a successful speaking business decade after decade, rather than being the hot little thing and then burning out? So, Terri, I'm done embarrassing you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ann. No, you're very kind. I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And playing the long game is something that you're passionate about when it comes to this business. And frankly, it's something I'm passionate about because I don't want in 1 year, 2 years, 5 years to not be the hot thing anymore. So what does playing the long game mean to you?
I was very intentional. I think it's a great question. So I was very intentional early on about choosing mentors or role models, individuals who had long-term careers. Those were the individuals I wanted to model. So I identified people like Brian Tracy, my personal mentor, Harvey McKay. These are people who made the turn after difficult times. And no matter how hot you are in the moment, a turn will come. It could be 9/11. It could be the crash in 2008. It could be COVID. It could be a personal setback in your life. There are so many things that can happen where you could be on fire and then something will happen and it clears your calendar. And then you have to make that turn. So there are lots of pearls of wisdom I can share along the way. But I love that we're going to focus on this in this call because people love to speak about, I'm so passionate and I love this and this is where I want to be and these are my people. And I love that and I agree. But I also want you to think about the long term, playing the long game. Do you have a career that can ride the waves? And what will it look like for you when you hit that 35 to 40 year mark as a professional speaker?
I love it. And it's funny because this is one of the challenges I have with NSA and with any industry professional organization is there are so many different ways to run the business. And, we need to find role models. We need to find mentors and get that good information. But we also need to say, okay, cool, what works for us? But I suspect that there are some big picture, long game strategies that you've learned that whether it was 1980, 2000, or 2026, or hopefully 2040, these are all going to be relevant skills. So what are the things you learned from your mentors?
So the first one was to really think about how will this play out 10 years from now or 15 years from now. So if you're going to put out a piece of content or write a book or say something from the platform, is this something that will stand the test of time? And if not, can you qualify it to say something like, this is where we are right now today, but again, be aware of the fact that in 5 years from now, it might sound like the silliest thing you ever said. So, be aware. Again, I even thought about it in terms of when you write a book. People say sometimes little things like, "Oh, I wrote a book. I did it over a weekend," and I'm like, "But did you?" Again, it could be that you put a book together and it has a binding, and maybe you threw an ISBN number on it, and you can just pop it up onto Amazon. But again, if you want to be a true thought leader, are you originating thoughts that can stand the test of time, that will be something that you're super proud of 5 years, 10 years from now? I mean, I can say humbly, I'm so grateful that VHS tapes went away, because there are demo videos that I'm really grateful will never see the light of day. And I think that those are little things that will help you to stay aware and also help you to play that long game.
And this is so important, because these days, once you put it out there, it is out there.
It lives in perpetuity.
And I've heard rumors of speakers having articles written on AI, putting them out there, and then when asked about them in an interview, they're not able to even speak to the topic very well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be. So again, this whole AI movement is really different for me and others of us who did it the old-fashioned way, sitting at your computer, hammering it out, using Word as your editor, and then maybe contracting an outside editor to draft a proposal, cutting and pasting chunks with scissors. And, but I think the essence of it was, it really helped you, or helped us to craft the message that we wanted without an outside influence, and to use your analytics with your own content. And I think here's the big nugget. There are things you're going to work on as you're drafting a book or an article, or you're doing your research. You'll test it on the platform and you'll be like, "Ooh, that lands." And people leaned in or they laughed. And then that kind of comes back into your content and vice versa. And it's this beautiful evolution of your written word to your spoken word to your marketing materials to what you're ultimately going to put on a demo video. There are ways to kind of look at it and say, do I have consistency of message? What am I bringing to my speaking career and to the topic that does make me unique? And all of those things, I think they just take time. And so this would be nugget number 2, is when you're playing the long game, slow down. Just slow down and look at everything that you put out before you put it out, and ask yourself those hard questions. Is this good? Will I be proud of it 5-10 years from now? Is it helpful? And does it speak to my brand?
Well, and to your point a second ago, also understanding that when you put a speech on stage, yes, we've thought about all these things and we've worked hard and strategized to get it right. But there's also an evolution that happens where we continue to look at it. There's no destination where it's like, all right, we're there, boom, and we give the same speech over and over and over. There is an evolution, whether it's examples or whether it's, the fine tuning of that point that changes it along the way, right? I mean,
Yes.
Not from a large umbrella, make your main points, but it just fine tunes it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which probably brings me to the third nugget, which is, when you're playing the long game, whether you're looking at your website, your marketing materials, your book, your speech, whatever it is, I always ask a very simple question. Does it pass my so what test? Meaning, why am I putting out this piece of content? So what? What does it mean to the listener? Why am I promoting this particular speech? So what? What does it mean to the meeting planner or the buyer? And if I'm working on a new book and I'm trying to pitch it to a publisher, and initially you've got to pitch it to your literary agent, and then they've got to be able to pitch it to a publisher. So does it pass their so what test? So I'm very aware of, and I make a conscious effort to not just put stuff up, but to ask, is there a through line that passes my so what test?
I love it. So what not only is to the audience, but also to my main content and my main area
Absolutely.
of expertise.
Yes, because even if somebody says, oh, look, we've all created products that didn't sell. Maybe because it was something you wanted to do, but it wasn't something necessarily the market wanted to buy. Oops, like we've all done that. But when you are meeting the need, you can ask yourself, what will I charge for this particular speech or this particular workshop or this particular consultation? And what is the ROI for the buyer? And that really leads us into this kind of second part that you wanted to talk about today, which is, are you crafting a business or career that's sellable? Not meaning will you sell it, but how will you sell your products and services in order to be a profitable speaker in this industry?
Well, and I think this is such an important point especially for newer speakers. A lot of people say, I want to tell my story. I want to share what I learned so the people who were in my seat get that message, which is amazing and noble and wonderful. Yes. And we have to think about the so what for the person buying you as a speaker, right?
I mean, I've seen them come and go. And again, for better, for worse, and I say this with love, yep. You might have a story you really want to tell, and you could be very passionate about it. And I love that. And that is a beautiful place to be. But taking that passion that you have for your message doesn't necessarily mean that it's something somebody wants to buy. And it's hard. You can be on the Rubber Chicken Tour, speaking all day long at, meetings and events where they would love to have you, 10 times a month for $500 a day. And you can do that for a little while, but you can't do it for 35 years. It's how you get your 10,000 hours in initially. But at some point, you have to make the turn. That you're not just a lovely guest speaker, but you're building a speaking business. And, David Avernon and I talk about this a lot. He's really focused on helping people to build a stronger speaking business. And then, I work with other speaking friends like that. We're just collaborating. Ross Bernstein and I made the Zoom turn in the middle of COVID together with the help of NSA. I mean, you have so many resources within the organization that will help you to get where you want to go if you look to the right people and you ask the right questions.
Yes. And I love this, that you keep talking about the turn. There's always that moment that we have to change something. We have to do it differently. How have you done that? Because it is hard, especially when we've, been doing it for 10 years and we're doing it a certain way. And then all of a sudden you're like, crap, I have to do this a different way. I don't want to. But in order to stay relevant and continue to do this business, we have to. So talk to me a little bit about your strategies there.
Oh my gosh. Well, we could probably, I'll give you, you want the long answer or the short answer? I mean,
give me the short one and I'll ask questions to make it longer.
I'm in the middle. I've been in the same office on Balboa Island for over 25 years, and we're making a huge turn right now because the market has shifted. And so I'm doing a remodel in my house where I'm building a studio and we're changing the space. That is because the way that my team and I used to work is just no longer efficient. I mean, pre-COVID, I had two gals that worked in my office, and then they both wanted to move. And so over the last few years, one moved to Washington, the other one moved to Utah. They're 100% remote. I don't need to keep an office lease when nobody wants to work there. And so you have to change the entire process under which you work. And then that means spending money in order to adapt, not for where things are today, but where the puck is going, if you will, and to stay not only current and relevant, to stay profitable, but to have a certain amount of empathy for where everyone is that you are speaking to. I mean, everyone that I am speaking to in the sales and marketing game is going through a similar shift or change. When I'm prospecting, it used to be really easy for me. And here's a simple example of what you're asking me. So my office has always been on Balboa Island. I would invite clients, whether they were a CEO or a member of Congress. I would say, come on down to Balboa Island. We'll grab a Starbucks. We'll do a walk around the island. And we would literally walk and talk about their meeting or event. It was an experience. It's how I bonded with people. But now getting humans to come down to Balboa Island to do a business walk is like virtually impossible. They're like, can we do a Zoom? Right? So it's not that people don't enjoy the experience. It's just that life has changed. And so if I don't, what used to be so fun and cute and amazing to work with my team in my office, or how we worked with clients and prospects, like the universe has changed. And so you will move along with it. That's like a big picture. That's not even adapting to, trauma, like a 9/11 or a stock market crash or COVID.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, and how do you know, and this is a loaded question, so good luck answering it, but how do you know when it's time to shift, when it's time to make one of those big, because closing down your office, changing the way you have sales conversations is a pretty big change to your business model. How do you know when it's time to make that shift?
When you're not making as much money.
Yeah. Right.
It's like you can't put a square peg in a round hole. I could think it's darling to keep the office. I can wish my humans would want to still work there, but that's not how the world works. You have to pivot, because you will look. Here's the speaking model. I just looked this up the other day. It was so fun. So as you're building your arc of your career, you're starting and you're super scrappy and you're all fired up and you're full of passion and love, and you're all woo. It's like you're on fire. And trust me, I was there. I would do 8 to 10 gigs a month. I was on fire. You think it's going to always be that way. But even if you're really good and they love you, there's another flavor of you that is going to come out, and it's going to squash you. Sorry. I hate to tell you, but that's what happens. And so you have to reinvent yourself, because there will be other competition who's just as good as you and just as passionate as you and has just as good a story as you. And they've got a team who uses whatever the new technology is, and then they'll be hot until they're not. And then someone else comes along. And so that's what I mean by taking the turn. Your career will evolve and morph and grow and change. And then you're going to get to the point where, and I say this with love, you're just not going to want to do 8 to 10 gigs a month. Some people do, some people don't. I don't. I'm a lot more selective about when I go out and how much I will go out for. Not that I don't love it. I love it. I want to keep loving it. But, it's just, it gets harder and harder on your body. And so you have a different pace. Your pace will shift. And so as your pace shifts and you want to charge higher fees, then your value proposition also has to increase.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And eventually people will say, okay, we want to bring you in and she's worth more money or he's worth more money, because the value is there based on accumulated wisdom. And that's important. And then you write that for 6, I'm looking at Harvey and Brian and I say, what are they doing at, 80 and 90, and why? And there's one of our speaker colleagues and friends, Lou Holtz, recently passed away. He was an amazing speaker, mesmerizing, and one of Harvey McKay's best friends. And Lou had this great quote that I keep up on my wall. He said, I think that everybody needs 4 things in life: something to do, someone to love, something to hope for, and someone to believe in. Mm. And so again, if our theme for our podcast talk today is playing the long game, then those things will always be true wherever you are in your career. And that kind of speaks to your question, long answer, on longevity, and then selling it, and relevance, and making the turn.
I love it. And it's hard truths here at Speakernomics. Like this kind of, of truth telling is important, even though it's painful, but it's what makes us pay attention to the downturn. Isn't just a couple of months. If we take our foot off the gas, if we start not paying attention and not changing, we're going to not be relevant in 5 years, 8 years. So it's a great point.
I think that that's an interesting point. Let's talk about your foot on the gas. You're not always going 65 to 80 miles an hour. Mm. Sometimes your pace will slow down because you're in a creation space, right? You're working on a research project. You're working on a new book. You are developing a new talk. I heard
or
this
your mother's sick and you've got stuff at home, you know?
Right. Those things will happen. So
Yep.
when you build a career that's based on the long term, it weathers those storms with a little bit more consistency. And then you get that confidence. You know, I listened to a gal the other day, and she was a little snarky. And she was like, who is that speaker? I've never even heard of her before. She doesn't even have any major social media. And I giggled, right? Because I'm like, she's talking about me. So and, you know, that's not, yes, I have a presence, but I'm not a big Instagrammer. I do, you know, the majority of my social media is on LinkedIn, like some of our speaker friends. I don't drop TikTok videos, and I don't post 20 times a day. But with a client list of, 30 plus years, you also don't have to in the same way. People don't come to me in the same way. So I'm not turning myself inside out to become a master of the social media game. I want to stay true to who I am and what my brand is, but I also am good at what I do. And it fits in alignment with where I'm at. But again, perception is not always reality. And also, playing the long game just helps you to stay consistent. I try not to get distracted by the shiny, sparkly things. There's a lot of shiny, sparkly things in the speaking world. And so I like, I'm tactical, practical. I like things that stand the test of time. And that, my through line is, does it pass my so what test? And so those are the things that I just keep going back to. And I hope that listeners on this call know that everything you and I are talking about is really coming from this place of, I want you to win. There's plenty of room for everyone to have a 30-year career. You can do this. Just maybe slow down a skosh. Just breathe, watch, or listen.
Yeah. And bring the strategy into it. Right?
Yes.
Because, we can go after the shiny objects, and they can really absolutely help. But if what you're talking about of that base content and that base message that has been thought about, and, and that everything fits that consistency that you're talking about to, again, build that long game and all attach, that I think it comes down to priorities, right?
Yeah, what do you want to tell me? So I'll ask you a question back in. Where do you see yourself in 20 years as a speaker?
That's a scary one to answer, right? I speak on change, and I think change is happening so fast. I hope fewer speaking engagements per year, maybe reaching people in a different way, maybe being Oprah, who knows?
And so if that was the case, and you and I were sitting together, I would be like, okay, and think of your career as a wheel. And in the center is at the center of the wheel is kind of your baseline. So if all things begin with speaking, if that's your passion, then each spoke becomes another piece of that. So my core that I love, at the center of all things I do is based on continuing to have keynote speaking engagements and workshops. One spoke is books. And that evolving my content helps me to get more speaking engagements and workshops. One spoke is media and interviews. But I need things that are going to last, right? Because social media to me is like a Pac-Man. It just eats it and the next day it's gone. So I play longer games with my media and marketing strategy. And then, so that's another spoke. Another one is your team. Who are the people on your team that help you to get more speaking engagements? Others is partnerships like bureaus and meeting planners. That's another spoke. So you're going to have these various spokes that all feed the center beast, which is your speaking business. And with all of those spokes, if anything gets light, going back to one of your first questions is, when do you know to make the turn? Which one of these spokes is light or needs more attention? And that is, maybe it's a new demo video. So you have your demo video team. So you need to have more, new and improved video. Maybe you need to go into a different market. We're seeing a shift where a lot of my gigs are now coming in technology and AI, where I'm speaking to sales professionals who sell and promote technology in the AI space for a variety of different industries, from everything from executive search to security and cybersecurity. So that audience wasn't even something that was on my radar 15 years ago when I was predominantly doing real estate, financial services, and lending, right? So again, your offerings may shift also based on who is the industry that's needing you most in that moment, or where you can be most profitable as a business in that moment to make the turn.
I love it. Well, and it sounds like one of those spokes, and I love that metaphor, by the way, is your network as well. It's paying attention to other speakers, to the industries, to what's the technological changes these days. Not only looking at the news, but also looking at people and what they're doing and listening in. How are you at this point in your career expanding that network? I mean, you've got probably a really great, set of voices, but how are you adding to those voices to continue to keep those relevant to today?
Yeah, the National Speakers Association is one of my core, entities for networking and building my base. I've watched a lot of people that join the association for 5 or 6 years and then they go, like they think they've got all they need, and I'm like, wow, that's just amazing to me, because it's your partnerships and your friendships that also help you to make those turns, because they're in the industry with you, they're in the boat with you. Mm-hmm. And so again, I became a member in 1991. And, so I'm coming up on 35 years of being a member. I have never missed a national convention. I take that back. I've missed 2. One was because I did it remote in COVID. So technically I didn't miss it. And then the second one is when I got married. So it just happened to be a date conflict. But other than that, I've never missed a national convention. I would tell everybody who's listening to this that maintaining your National Speakers Association membership is imperative. I also think that it's critical for you to attend every single national convention, because that's where everybody comes. Look, that's where we get to see our friends and we get to network. And the sessions are critical, but it's the conversations in the hallways. It's the dinners. It's the lunches. It's those things where you get access to individuals that you can go, hey, I read something that you wrote, or I've been watching you on social media, or I love what you did on LinkedIn. And you have those 5 to 7 minute sidebar conversations. They're life-changing. You can't afford to not be a member of NSA and be in this business long-term.
Yeah.
Mic drop. That's it.
I love it. Mic drop. Bold statement. I love it. Well, and that brings us to sort of the end of our conversation here. It's playing the long game, I think, is one of the hardest things, because there are so many shiny objects. So I appreciate you coming on to tell us, is there anything we missed? Any other key pieces of playing the long game that we didn't get to talk about?
Yeah, probably. I think, being a sales professional, to be a great speaker and to have a great speaking career means that you're also the number one sales professional on your team. No one can sell you better than you. So I'll do a little, shameless plug, but I really believe that the core content of my book, Presentation Ready, is about helping people to not be presentation ready for the main stage, but presentation ready for the sales opportunities, so that when you're selling yourself to a bureau, when you're selling yourself to a client, to an association, when it's between you and 3 of your dearest friends that you're going up against to get a gig, how do you position yourself beautifully so that you can still get the win and do it in a way that makes you proud and makes you support everybody that's in this space? There's plenty of room for every speaker, but you still have to define how you can sell yourself to differentiate, to meet the burden of your client and what they need to stay profitable for yourself, and to, again, play the long game. And I think, when I sit down with speakers and people say to me, can you help me? I'll say, I want to hear your persuasive case. What are the top 3 reasons why I should book you? What are the top 3 reasons that the audience is going to walk away and think, oh my gosh, that speaker, I got a lot of value out of that speaker. Why would they rebook you again? What are the top 3 reasons? I'll look at their website. I will look at their marketing materials, and I'll be like, look, these do not pass the so what test. So the so what test appeals to also how do you sell yourself in the marketplace for longevity?
Love it. And that goes into your other book, Small Message, Big Impact, is how do I sell it quick so that somebody goes, oh, wait, I want to know more.
And look, I will say this with humility. Like, as great as that book went and as cool as it was that it was a New York Times bestseller, and, you know, I did 2 episodes, like this is total transparency. I did 2 episodes of the Today Show for Small Message, Big Impact. I did 2 episodes of the Today Show for Scrappy. So 4 in total. And, you know, both of those books are now gone. They evaporated because time makes them irrelevant. And so you have to have a new book. So again, you could have 2 big books and you're on all this media, and then it's not, because
next,
it's like, what's now? And that's pre-pandemic. And again, that's just another, you know, again, me being fully transparent. Just because you had huge hits doesn't mean they're going to last, because the universe goes, that's played. What you got next?
Yeah, and I love this real talk, because it's like, whether we like it or not, whether it should be there or not, whether it's the best way or not, it doesn't matter. Here's where we are. Terri, you rock. Thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you at Influence and raising a glass and sharing some more insights about what's next.
Thank you. Well, I will end you on this positive quote. We often think that it's comfort and luxury that are the chief requirements for happiness in life, when all we truly need to be happy is something to be enthusiastic about. So I hope you stay enthusiastic about your speaking career, about the National Speakers Association, and I look forward to seeing you all at Influence. I will be there.
I got nothing else. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Speakernomics. If you want more bookings, credibility, and connections, your NSA community is waiting for you. Join NSA today. Click the link below and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and download this podcast wherever you listen.